What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about HBAR Hedera today. The purpose of this video is to discuss where I believe HBAR will be by the end of this cycle. To do that, we're going to compare a few different charts. We're going to use some long-term data, the historical data for HBAR, and try to come up with a time frame and a suitable price that makes sense, right? You don't even have to know what it is that I'm talking about necessarily. You don't even have to know technical analysis. This could all seem like alien language to you, and hopefully even still by the end of this video you will understand why I believe we're going to see some massive growth for this thing. So if that sounds good to you, hit the like button, subscribe. Thank you all for being here, and let's get started, okay? To do this analysis, we're going to use a few charts, okay? We're going to use the Bitcoin chart, we're going to use the others chart, we're going to use HBAR and HBAR to BTC, all right? Looking at HBAR here we are. It's the 28th day of June, and we're at about 14.73 cents now, 2 days, 7 hours left in this month, okay? Long-term analysis, we're not going to do any short-term stuff in this one. Maybe at the end, but I doubt that we will. I'm expecting we're going to bounce here pretty soon. Let's just leave it at that, right? We're going to bounce. We're going to be moving up higher. Where are we going to go to, right? From a high to a low, typically, just understand, I've been doing technical analysis now for 9 years. I've been in the crypto space since 2015. Typically, from a high to a low, what you see for the next cycle's high, whenever you do break out to new all-time highs, is you see some extension that goes between the 1618 to the 2272. Now, don't get discouraged by the 1618 or too encouraged. Don't get too encouraged by the 2272, right? Do get discouraged. If you're expecting higher prices than that, I would say don't really get too excited for prices that are above $20. But it's possible maybe that we could see this. I don't know. We'll go through this and see how feasible that is, but I think something maybe right in the middle here might make the most sense, or even on the in-between there. So just understand that's kind of the target area for now, and we will we'll change this going forward, but I'm going to put a line right here. We're going to put it right there. I'm going to change this line. We're going to make it white. Want it to be white because it stands out a little bit, right, on the black background there. Come on now. There. Oh, so close. Whatever. I don't care. It doesn't need to be precise. Something in that area. So far, this is the target area that we're going for, okay? HBAR, from its bear market low to where it is now, is up about 4x. We're at a 300% growth. If we look at the others chart, which for those of you that don't know, the others chart is comprised of the total 125 top cryptos that exist, excluding the top 10 cryptos. So no Bitcoin, no USDT, no Solana, Ethereum, Doge, Binance, XTZ, Tron, or TRX, sorry, Tron, not Tezos, TRX, Tron. None of the top 10 coins, right? The average coin, it's essentially an index for the average coin, at least in the top 125. From a low to a high, the average altcoin has done about a 3.2x. So HBAR has actually outperformed the average altcoin. And back in November, December times, we actually saw a move that was also outperforming the average altcoin. The average altcoin's been boring. They kind of look like this their whole cycle. They haven't really moved yet. HBAR has at least pumped up, and it is at this point outperforming the average altcoin. I expect the others chart here, and I don't want to go into great detail as to why. This is an others chart analysis, but just understand, like I was saying, from a high to a low, I'm expecting that the average altcoin sees between its 1618 to 2272, something in there, right? It doesn't make sense that if we have an alt season, when we have an alt season, that the average altcoin would do a 7x from here. I don't think so. I think it's much more feasible that we'd see something on the lines of like a $6 trillion market cap, which would be about a 26 to a 30x from here, okay? 26 to 30x, that's the projected outcome for the average altcoin. So if HBAR were to perform on average, a 26 to 30x is what we would get. We already know that that's not going to happen, though, because it has performed what? Above average. It has performed above average. So let's look at this real quick with a high to low here in mind. 26 to 30x, right? Well, from here, from where the current price is to the golden ratio there, that's a 21x, almost a 22x. So we already know that's on the low end of things, but I think we can say confidently that you're probably not going to stop there. You're probably not going to stop at $3.15, right? You're outperforming the average coin now from the low to where you are. You outperformed them in November to December. You even probably outperformed, let's see, in April here. What'd you do? Yeah, you outperformed barely, but you still outperformed the average coin in April too. I think the average coin did like a 60 or 70% move. You did 80%. So you've been outperforming this whole cycle. You're not going to underperform going forward. Does that make sense? I feel like that makes sense, right? The next target area in the fibs is all the way up here at about $6.62. And in that, I might feel confident moving that as the minimum. But I want to take this real quick from a high to a low. I want to just see if there's any other targets. Maybe 460. What is that right there? That's still about average. Okay, we can move that. Let's take that as a minimum. I want to be conservative. That way it's like somewhat realistic even to the pessimists out there, right? I hope this is all making sense as to why. Come on, man. I'm trying to be perfect with it. There we go. Why the minimum target has shifted to $4, okay? The minimum target, because that's about an average move. And I think HBAR will perform above average. So even that's not fair, but we're just trying to refine this range before we get further into this video, okay? So we know what the average expectation is for the average altcoin, okay? We know the kind of range generally with HBAR. Here's the HBAR BTC chart. We're going to try and refine prices that make sense for HBAR BTC into this HBAR USD. Now, we're not going to nitpick. We're not going to compare notes. We'll compare notes after the calculations are made, but we're not going to guess and check in response to these two charts. We're just going to use this chart here, guess it with some, or guess and check with some math, and then apply that to this chart and see if it falls right in this range. If things come up the way I think it will, we should get some targets that fall right in this range here. Okay, we should. Before we carry on, I want to go over some stuff here with Bitcoin. Okay, I'm going to go back. I've actually got this all. I did this with Stellar Lumens, so I've got all this made up. I'm just going to click the back button a bunch of times. Oh, we got to move. Will that mess it up? No. Okay, cool. Cool. Okay, so I can go back like this. No, it did mess it up, didn't it? Damn, it did. Okay, that's okay. That's okay. Let's do this. Let's see. So, if we're looking at this here, what we've got is we're on the weekly chart for Bitcoin, and I took a low all the way back from 2011, the low of that bear market, the beginning of the bull market. We put a low to high line right here. Why did I stop at that high? Because that was the high before the halving. This, in essence, was your pre-halving move. We move our pre-halving move over here. We move our post-halving move, which was right here. We take the low after the halving, which the halving was in November 28th, 2012. We took the low after the halving to the all-time high. Pre-halving move, post-halving move. Okay, I have a purpose. The pre-halving move was dramatically lesser than the post-halving move, right? Nobody's going to disagree with that. The post-halving move also had a higher slope than the pre-halving move. We take the next bull market low, and we go to the high that was before the halving. This halving was July 9th, 2016. So this right here being the high in June, that is the pre-halving move. We have a pre-halving move here. Okay, our low here after July 9th, 2016. This is August, so that's the low after the halving. This is our post-halving move. Pre-halving, post-halving. And yet again, we see a dramatically larger move post-halving than we had pre-halving, and it's at an increased slope as well. We go to the next cycle, and this one's a little bit interesting because last cycle, we had some stuff going on with COVID and all other kinds of things in the world that were hurting the cycle. I think that this is the reason why we get this kind of weird iteration here, but that is your pre-halving move. The pre-halving was, the halving was May 11th, 2020. We're not going to take this low, right? Low to high, that's the pre-halving move, but this is still before the halving, so that wouldn't count for the post-halving move. We're going to go to May 11th that week from the low to the high of the cycle, which would have been here. That's our bull market end. Yes, the cycle high was all the way over here, but if I really wanted to, I could draw it out like this and be like, wow, look at how much larger this was compared to that move. But we're not going to do that. We're gonna put it here, right? I feel like that's fair. This is a fake out. I think this is the end of the bull cycle. This is just the all-time high, but the bull cycle still ended here. Okay, all the cycle top indicators are going off here. It just makes sense. That's the end of the cycle. And I mean, you can see it. This is the crab market. We move sideways. I wouldn't call this double bottom here. I wouldn't say that this was the end of the bear market. That was the end of the bear market, right? This is not the end of the bull market. That was the end of the bull market, if that makes sense. Here, we have a lower slope. You see how the angle is actually lesser than the pre-halving move, but the move still prevails. Post-halving is bigger, noticeably bigger, than the pre-halving move. And even here, if we take the majority of what this finale phase was from a low to a high here, okay, we take the meat of this finale phase right here, this post-halving move, the finale phase of the bull market, was still pretty similar in size and overall a faster move in itself, a more robust move. So there was more bullish movements going on. This is a pretty fast, robust pre-halving move in all fairness, but we've got that there. So we've established that Bitcoin, and we're going to get back to HBAR in a second. I have a point though, okay? I have a point. Bitcoin likes to see, and if we go here, it likes to see a smaller pre-halving move than it does post-halving. This halving here in 2024 is April 20th, 2024. So this high here is our pre-halving high. This is our post-halving low. And how high are we going to go? We don't know. We don't know how high we're going to go. We don't have that measurement. So all we have is this measurement. What we do presume to know is that Bitcoin, BTC, will be above $237,000 by the end of the cycle. What we do presume to know as well is that any cycle from a high to a low, and if you go back in time, I'm not going to do this because I don't want to spend too much more time on this part, but Bitcoin has always gone at least a little bit above its 1618, and if it doesn't stop there, it goes to its 2272. Every cycle high to low that Bitcoin's had, it goes to its 2272 or the 1618. If we take our pre-halving move and put it here as a post-halving move, we know we're going to be above the 1618. I don't think we stop here. I think we go to the only other stopping place we've ever had in Bitcoin's history, which is the 2272. Typically with the 2272, Bitcoin goes just above it, and just above, it shouldn't be at 450. It's actually, I didn't get that low on there right. It should be 460. Just above there, what is that? That's a $500,000 price. I believe Bitcoin's going to go to 500K by the end of the cycle. This is important when understanding and comparing the HBAR to BTC chart, okay? So, HBAR BTC now has been held down by this area of resistance. We've been kind of, if we go to monthly high close even, like this area of resistance, but probably this is a better statement there, 50397. We've been held down by this target, okay? 50397. My expectation is here, looking at this from a relative low to relative high, we just tipped the golden ratio. We've outperformed the average altcoin so far this cycle. We will likely keep up with that idea. I'm thinking that HBAR BTC continues to grow and it breaks out of this range that you've been in since 2022. You're probably going to see new highs. Where's the most likely stopping point from here? Well, probably back to your highs here. Probably. And let's even shave it down. Let's get where you found resistance here. So this is 408. 40808. Let's put that in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 808. Is that right? Not like 8008. Yeah, 808. And we multiply that by the presumed outcome of Bitcoin by the end of the cycle, which might be 500K. HBAR and Bitcoin probably don't top off at the same time. Bitcoin probably tops off first, as it normally does, and then altcoins top off a month later. Let's put a number that's just below 500K. I'm going to do 480K because I feel like that might even be more appropriate. 480K. That's 48,000. 480K. What number does that give us? I did something wrong. I had to have done something wrong. Wait. I had to, right? Right? Hold on now. Wait a second, guys. Whoa. Wait a second. $38? Did I input the wrong? Let me make sure. Hold on. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Whew. Yes, I did something wrong. 5 zeros. That's not 4 zeros, it's 5 zeros. So move a decimal over, not $38. Oh my goodness, man. Oh, I was about to put everything into HBAR. I was about to sell your house for you and put it into HBAR. $3.87 is the minimum target we're getting here. $3.87, right? We derive that from this HBAR BTC chart right here. Where are you going to break out to and go up to next? It makes sense that you'd go up here, right? We've got, you're finding support right here. Oh, nope. Okay, hold on. It's taking its time loading. TradingView's been slow for me lately. I think it's my internet, man. Might be my computer. Okay. You know what? We'll just do this on another chart, maybe. No. Okay, there we go. HBAR, BTC. I thought I had the fibs on there. Let me see. Low to high. You're at the golden ratio, finding support. We're going to break out of here. Where's the next likely area to go to? All the way up here, right? That's what we determine. This is at the minimum, right? So by the end of the cycle, maybe not even by the end of the cycle, maybe by the end of this year, who knows? We're going to get up there, okay? And that's what we derived. I improperly put in 4 zeros, so really it'd be $3.87. If we look at HBAR USD, $3.87 is actually right here from a high to a low, right above that golden ratio there, right? So we've made sense out of something that's very, very near the given range, the established range that we had that we assumed just looking at this price here. So that's nice. That's good. The minimum target should at least then outperform or at least perform on average with the average altcoin, right? And we know that, right? HBAR has been outperforming the average altcoin. This doesn't even really make sense, but from a conservative standpoint, it makes sense that it would perform on average what the average altcoin sees. But this is the low end target. HBAR BTC likely doesn't stop here by the end of the cycle. I wouldn't be surprised if we get there by August, maybe September, by the end of this year. Going into 2026, which is when I think this cycle is going to end, is probably going to be Q1, Q2 of 2026. I'm leaning toward Q2, honestly, you guys, like the beginning of Q2, maybe right there in April or May. If that happens, I think we'll actually see new highs relative to this even. I do believe that HBAR will see new highs relative to Bitcoin in this sense, but let's take that target too. Let's say that we stop here by the end of the cycle. What is that? That's 4 zeros, 1, 2. Now it's 4 zeros. Okay. 4 zeros, 1204. Okay, that price, and we're also going to multiply it by a $480,000 Bitcoin, because a little bit less than 500,000, right? Assuming Bitcoin tops off a month before, $5.78. So $5.78 right here, HBAR USD, $5.78. That actually is still pretty close to another fib that we have here, the 1886, but just below it. Again, I think we're selling ourselves short. I don't think this makes a whole lot of sense, but we're making sense out of it at least, right? And that in itself, from the current price, is about a 39x. 39x, so above average performance. At least this is a more reasonable answer, I think. 39x, outperforming the average altcoin, but still just below this fib. That doesn't make sense to me. I would think we go higher. So let's go higher. Well, we don't really have anything else to base this off of. We're assuming that this is the low here, HBAR to BTC. Why? Because from a low to a high, you tipped that golden ratio perfectly. You tipped it perfectly. So maybe if we take a high here to a low, assuming that's the low, we could project out from here. We don't stop here. We're going to go to the 2272. Okay, typically with the 2272, you don't stop right at it. You actually go just above it. So let's go just above it. I'm guessing here, but 4 zeros, 1866. Okay, 4 zeros, 1866. We multiply that by, again, something like $480,000. Let's even lower it down a little bit. Let's be even more conservative. 470,000. Okay, we do that. 877. Now we're getting somewhere, right? USD, HBAR, 877. That is right there, smack dab between the 1886-200 area, which would promote an overall growth for HBAR of about a 58x. Now we're getting somewhere. I think this is actually a suitable target for HBAR by the end of this cycle. What price would that be, right? That's about a 58x from here. If we do a 58x, we multiply it by HBAR's current market cap, HBAR, Hedera hash graph, 6.2 billion is what I saw there, right? Let's see. Come on. Come on. 6.23 billion. 58x times 6.23 billion should give us a $361 billion market cap. If HBAR BTC goes here, which I think it will, I think it'll see new highs relative to this. HBAR USD goes here, it makes sense. And I think HBAR could see I think it will see a multi-$100 billion market cap. That makes a lot of sense to me. Even if we don't get here, we've at least made sense of targets that are above $4, right? Above $5, even above $6, I would say makes the most sense. 662, in my opinion, really would be the minimum target to expect, and that would outperform the average coin. You'd be at something of like a 44x there. But I'm thinking 58x sounds the most appropriate so far, at least in my opinion. HBAR BTC, what if we go to the next target? Now, I don't assume we get above the 2618. It's really hard and difficult to get above the 2618. You've been held down by this area here. Let's look at this relative high to overall low and just see if that lines up with anything too. Right there is your 1272. That might be the maximum expectation that I would have, that I'm going to give. So let's do that. 4 zeros, 2662. 4 zeros, 2662. Multiply that by the same number, 470K. And we're assuming maybe Bitcoin's at a higher price. Maybe it's above 500K, in which case these prices are conservative. Maybe it's just a little bit below here, in which case they're a little bit overzealous, but I don't think they are, right? I think that we're doing this pretty well, pretty conservative already. $12.51. $12.51, you guys. HBAR USD. Does this line up with anything? Yes, it does. 12.51 right here is in our range so far. We'll just put it right there. Let's say we were to go all the way up to 12.51. Okay, right there, about there. That's an 84.6x. 84.6x times 6.24 billion. 6.24 billion equals 527 billion. Now that's pushing it. I don't know if HBAR gets up that high. I don't know if it gets to higher targets than that, right? $500 billion is a lot, but there's a lot of good things going for HBAR, right? And DAG technology. It could be higher than this. It really could be. But I think that what we've just done, you guys, is set up a very, very good foundation. And we didn't even get to the 2272, so we'll move this target down. I think we set up a good kind of base in logic and reason to deduce that the price for HBAR will be something at a minimum of a 27x from here by the end of the cycle to a 84x from here by the end of the cycle, likely somewhere in between. I really like that idea of a 59x personally, something around $9. I think that's where we're going to go by the end of the cycle. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, hit the like button. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Again, I assume this will all happen sometime in Q1 or Q2 of 2026. Take care. See you on the next one. Bye-bye.